It seems like every press conference, Dana White is getting asked, when are you going to Africa? When are you going to Spain? When are you going to Sweden? When are you going to Botswana? Well, here are, I believe I have 11 locations I want to see the UFC go to. We're always excited when they go to a new location, or do something kind of intricate or unique with their location, like the Sphere. And just, I feel like it's really fun for the fans to have the fights in a cool area with a cool background. And it seems like recently the UFC has gotten a little bit stagnant. We're not going to too many new places. We're still doing Apex cards in 2025, and the quality of the Apex cards are really lacking. So I feel like if the UFC starts to go to really fun locations again, even if it's a bad card, we're still going to tune in. So here are some locations I want to see the UFC go to in the future. So to start us off, Kazakhstan, right? And this kind of just encompasses Central Asia as a whole, right? Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, all of those. And it seems like the best fighters from that region do come from Kazakhstan. I remember they were gonna go to Kazakhstan like during COVID, or like before COVID. I think it was Pyotr Yan that was supposed to headline. But and it seems like their fans are really, really passionate. So I think you have to go to Kazakhstan. It would be a great scene. I think they have some good arenas, and obviously you would headline with Shavkat. But you've got a bunch of fighters from that region, a bunch of up-and-coming talent. You could put some Dagestani fighters on that card as well. And we know how passionate those fans are, and I just think it would be a great scene. Imagine like Shavkat winning or defending the title in Kazakhstan. So you got to get to Central Asia at some point. I'm sure they will, but I don't think this is talked about enough. I think this is a market that really could be tapped into. So I would love to see the UFC in Central Asia and Kazakhstan. Moving on, we talk about this a little bit. They have to go to Georgia. They have to go. They have Merab, who reps the country very proudly, and then they have Ilia Topuria. You could argue the top two fighters in the sport right now, the two most built different fighters in the sport right now. And the country's only, I believe, just under 4 million in population. That's crazy that they have two of the best guys, and they don't even have 5 million people. And they got a nice capital city. I'm not sure, Tbilisi. I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation. Tbilisi. And we should do a card there. Georgia seems like a nice country. It's got good nature. I'm sure the fans will go crazy. I'm not sure we can get Ilia there. He might be too big of a star. But we should definitely get Merab there for a title defense. I'm not sure why. I think this is totally doable. You have a bunch of other Georgian fighters. You have Garam. I might be missing a few. You could put some fighters, from Armenia in there as well. Maybe some fighters from the Middle East, some fighters from Europe. It's in a good region that is kind of close to a bunch of other regions. So I think Georgia, they should definitely go to. Moving on, you have Philadelphia, Chicago, Atlanta, just some big American cities. Like, they do go to a lot of cities in the U.S., but they're missing some big ones, right? They haven't been to Philadelphia. I know New York is close. I know they went to Atlantic City, but come on, you got to go to Philly. Chicago, it's like the third biggest city in the country. They haven't been back to Chicago, Atlanta. So I do feel like they should diversify the cities they go to in the U.S. and just go to more. Try to reduce the Apex cards by 50% and just go to, what else is there? I know they've been to Phoenix a couple times, but, Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, DC, something like that. Yeah, I know they have deals with certain cities, but I do feel like they should go to maybe even some smaller towns too, maybe like Iowa or Minnesota or Boise, Idaho. Oklahoma City. So I feel like this would be cool just to get the UFC in more cities across the USA. Moving on a beach. So remember this Fight Island stuff and how it was promoted? I don't know. I thought they were going to be fighting like actually on the beach. And that would be so cool. I feel like you could do it. Maybe Hawaii with Holloway, during the sunset. They got a lot of fighters who are like Samoan from the islands over there, Pacific Islanders. Maybe you could do a card in Samoa or Fiji. But there's a bunch of, even in the USA, you could do a card in South Florida. You could do a card in the Bahamas. You could do a card on Abu Dhabi Island. There's a ton of different islands you could do it on. Just build a little bit of a venue. That's not hard. You know, it's not going to be a ton of seats, but enough. And you have the fighters fight during the sunset in the beach, like 5, 6 o'clock. So we don't have any sun glare. And, you know, we start the prelims around the sunset, and towards the end it's dark. We have some like tiki, some fire. This will be really, really cool. And, you know, we'll have no sun glare. Now, obviously, they're worried about weather. But, you know, the UFC, Dana White, we're gamblers, right? If their headquarters are in Vegas, you have to just gamble with the weather. And if it rains, you have an inside venue that's like that's like right across the street. And, you know, most of these islands, I don't think it rains a ton anyway. So I want to see this. I want to see, you know, fights not inside. I think it's cool to have them outside. I know that they're worried about the weather, but you just go to non-rainy places and have an alternate. See, I want to see a UFC fight on the beach. I think we can do this. Holloway on the beach in Hawaii? Come on. That would be amazing. We have a lot of Hawaiian fighters as well, so we can also, you know, put them on the card. All right, Nigeria. Look, every year they get talked about with Africa. Africa is huge. We can go to multiple places in Africa, but I think they have to go to Nigeria at some point. I believe it is the most populous country in Africa, and Nigeria is a cool country. You could definitely do a fight night in Lagos. And look, Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, they're in their mid-30s. They don't have a ton of time left, and you know, I think we need to see Adesanya and Usman on the card together in Nigeria. Maybe it can even be like Usman's retirement fight in Nigeria or something like that. But I think we need to see Adesanya and Usman fight in Nigeria. And we have a bunch of other African fighters. We have a bunch of other Nigerian fighters. You could probably make a whole card. I'm not sure if you can make a whole card with just Nigerian fighters, but I think this would be great. This would be great scenes. The first card in Africa, and Izzy and Usman. You know, they're two of the biggest. I don't want to say two of the biggest stars, but you know, they're in this generation of UFC fighters, they're two of the biggest names. They both went on great streaks, so I would love to see them both fight in Nigeria, and I think it's doable for sure as well. All right, college campuses. This is kind of just throwing something out there, but you know, a lot of these college campuses, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere. You know, they have a big college football game Saturday night. A bunch of people come in to the town, and you could do a UFC card there like on the Friday. Like, you could definitely headline with Bo Nickel at Penn State. Penn State's kind of in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. You could do it like on the Friday before a big football game. Just have like a little UFC card there. I'm thinking like you could do a card in Alabama. You know, with some Southern fighters. Maybe Bryce Mitchell headlines a card in Arkansas or something. I think it would be cool to do it on these college campuses. I definitely think, you know, you would fill it up with all the college kids, all the people coming. And I think it would be cool. Maybe you could even do it in like the football stadiums, something like that. But I definitely think it would be cool, a cool vibe to do it on like a college campus. Maybe you could do like a little version of College Game Day, but for UFC, and like have like Chael Sonnen run it or something. South Africa, right? I think, you know, you look at Nigeria, South Africa is probably second. Or no, South Africa is probably actually first in terms of infrastructure to host the UFC event. They did host the World Cup in 2010. So they definitely could do it, and you know, you could go to Johannesburg, you could go to Cape Town, but I think, you know, we get asked this all the time, and it always seems like, you know, Dricus' next fight will be in South Africa, but Dricus does have to fight in South Africa at some point, and he may lose the belt soon to Hamzat. I actually think I would pick Dricus to beat Hamzat. I know that seems kind of crazy, but he should beat Strickland, and then we need to do South Africa soon. We have a couple other South African fighters. Maybe sign a few more, and you can just bring in people from Southern Africa or Africa. Maybe Tembo Garimbo's on the card. I believe he's from Zimbabwe, which is close to South Africa. So South Africa is a cool country. Definitely, I think they're going to do South Africa at some point. But you know, they got the beaches, they got the safaris. I think we could definitely do a cool card in South Africa for sure. So I definitely want to see that. Moving on, we have Japan. Right, I'm surprised they haven't gone to Japan. Japan, obviously, you know, first world country, super developed. You could easily do a card there. There's a lot of boxing fights there. And we're starting to get some more Japanese talent. I know Kaya Sakura just lost, but he does seem like an entertaining fighter, a fighter who's definitely going to be around the top. And I believe he does have a big audience in Japan. We have Tatsuro Taira, who's another good fighter. We have Rinya Nakamura, who just lost, but you could get him on the card still. Sign a few more guys, maybe bring in a few Koreans or something, and we could do a card in Japan. And I think, you know, it's a market that definitely needs to be tapped, and you could do a cool press conference maybe in Tokyo somewhere. Like, I want to see like cool press conference venues. I want to see cool fight venues. Like, do a press conference in, you know, the streets of Tokyo. Do a press conference in, you know, the beaches of South Africa. Do a press conference, you know, right in the middle of Lagos, Nigeria. I want to see cool stuff. I want to see cool venues. And we got to get to Japan at some point. You know, they did just go to China and Macau. So I want to see the UFC in Japan soon, hopefully. Maybe this year. Sticking to Asia, I do think it would be cool to see the UFC in Thailand. Obviously, a ton of fighters train in Thailand, working on their Muay Thai. And Thailand, you do see, obviously, Muay Thai is super popular over there. You have a ton of Thai fighters who fight in ONE, and ONE will do a ton of shows over there. I do think it'd be good to bring the UFC to Thailand, so maybe that kind of encourages some of the Thai Muay Thai fighters to try to make that transition into MMA. And I think it'd be cool to, you know, a ton of the dudes who train in those Muay Thai gyms in Thailand could just kind of hop on that card, so they wouldn't need to travel. And maybe you could even incorporate like the beaches, like I was talking about, because Thailand's got a ton of beaches, so you could put that there. But I think we don't have a lot of Thai fighters in the UFC. We just have one female. So I think it'd be, you know, you could bring in some, you know, Chinese fighters, some Asian fighters, some maybe Anshul Jubilee hops on the card, maybe some Dagestanis, or, you know, Central Asian fighters hop on here, maybe some Australian ones. I think it'd be cool to have a card here. You know, they did do Singapore, but nowhere else really in that southern Asian region. And I think Thailand is probably the best spot, considering, you know, it is a country that, you know, has a combat sports culture, and one does a ton of shows. So I think the UFC should probably hop over here as well. Eastern Central Europe. So we have a ton of guys from like Eastern and Central Europe. You know, we'll do the UK cards, we'll do the France cards, but that's it. We need to expand in Europe. You know, it shouldn't be too difficult. It's Europe. You know, we're not asking to do one in you know, some crazy country. This is, you know, we need to expand from France and the UK. You know, especially because we have so many fighters from these regions. Like Jan Blachowicz, he's like 42 years old. I want to see him in Poland before he retires. And we have a lot of Polish fighters as well. We could headline a whole card. I want to see Yuri fight in Prague before he retires. We have a couple other fighters who could headline, you know, in Eastern Europe as well. I would love to see, since Central Europe, I'd love to see Vettori headline in Rome. Like, how cool would that be? Vettori headlining in Rome, doing a press conference in Rome, like outside. Having Yuri in Prague, having Jan in Poland. That would be really cool. So I think it'd be a good crowd as well. So we got to get some Eastern and Central European representation as well. All right, moving on. In the mountains. So kind of moving on from the beach theme, I think it'd be cool to have a fight outside that's like in the mountains region, right? There's a ton of spots you can do this. I'm not sure how many like arenas or stadiums are kind of like outside in the mountains. I believe this stadium on the left is in Switzerland, so you could definitely do that. Just build a little stadium here, build some chairs around in the back, and have a fight there in the mountains in Switzerland. Or you don't even need a stadium. You just put a ring somewhere and just put a bunch of seats somewhere. And then this is in Mexico, so we know the UFC is trying to go to Mexico, or trying to just build their brand in Mexico. They've been to Mexico City. There's the PI Open in there. I believe this stadium is in Monterrey. It's their soccer stadium. It looks pretty cool. So why not do a card here? You just put the arena right in the octagon right in the middle. You got the seats. You got the mountains. That'd be a cool backdrop. But I do think we should do some more fights outside, or some more fights in cool venues, because I definitely think that adds to it, especially when the card's lackluster. The venue really adds to it, especially having like fighters from that region fighting on the card, because then I like cards with themes, right? And the crowd gets behind them, and it's a lot more fun when the card has a theme and the fighters have some attachment to the venue. So yeah, those are some locations I want to see the UFC go to. Hopefully we get some cool locations this year, but so far it hasn't really seemed like it. It's kind of like the normal stuff. But let me know where you guys want to see the UFC go to. Did I miss anything? Do you like anything? Do you disagree with anything? Let me know where you want to see them go. So yeah, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, all that. And thank you for watching. I'll see you later.